Hello from sunny Switzerland, where I'm in Geneva to meet with a client. However, I'm also going to answer a question from 1Q9A. Let's have a look at this week's question and see what it is. Do you think iPads are effective for drafting designs and ideas? Will pen and paper never be beaten? Great question, but actually, I don't think it's a relevant question. I reject the premise of the question, as Jeremy Keith once said to me when I tried to interview him on a podcast. I think it's a bit of a moot point because I don't think these things are absolutes, are they? What one person likes, another person doesn't like. There's no reason why one has to be better than the other. You just use whatever tool is best for you. Also, these tools have different benefits and are useful at different times. Drafting. When are we talking about drafting these designs and ideas? We're talking about the very beginning of the project, or are we talking about later on? Are we talking about doing it with the client, or are we working by ourselves? Different times, different circumstances require different tools. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I often kick off the design process with the client. I believe that design should be an interactive and engaging process with the client, where the client's as much involved in it as I am as a designer. So I often have situations where I'm sitting in a meeting room and we need to start sketching out or talking about layout and that kind of thing. Now, you could pull out an iPad or you could pull out a Mac and bring up a wireframing tool and start to move things around that way, but I actually find it's much quicker, much easier to get a flip chart, to get a marker pen, to get a whiteboard and just start drawing out stuff. I then tend to photograph it afterwards, so I've got a record of it rather than trying to pull the whiteboard off the wall and walk off with it or whatever. And then that's my starting point. Then I tend to go away, and that's when I start using other tools. I will start wireframing in a wireframing package. And the huge advantage of that is that a pen and paper is accessible to anyone. So yeah, I could be up, drawing up things on the whiteboard, but equally so could the client. The client could come and draw boxes without having to know or understand the application. They can move things around. They can contribute as much as I do, and I think that's really important. Pen and paper is very inclusive in that regards. It's also so quick. It's so easy to do. If not faffing around with icons or moving boxes or anything like that, you're literally just drawing. It's about as close to mind reading as you could get. But pen and paper does come with its drawbacks. It's very hard to iterate pen and paper. It's very hard to kind of move boxes around or shove stuff. You find yourself redrawing the same thing again and again. So I think once you get beyond that kind of initial really sketchy process, then for me that's the time when an application comes into play, and I can do much more detailed things, and I can develop ideas and I can try different approaches, etc. So it's the right tool for the right job, as it always has been. Is the iPad a good tool for doing design and ideas? Not so much, to be honest. For me, I think it's either pen and paper or it's probably a Mac with a mouse. It's not really an iPad environment. There are exceptions. Mood boarding, for example, works quite well on an iPad, where you can just grab stuff and drop it in. And there are some great apps out there that enable you to do that kind of thing, but not so much for wireframing. But that's just my opinion. Use whatever tool suits you the most.